All right, Veronica Hardy, welcome. Really nice to speak to you. Congratulations, obviously, on your win. How are you feeling now that you're kind of separated from the whole experience by a week or so?
It feels great. It feels really great, especially after so much time off and so much kind of like mental insecurities before I headed in there. You know, a lot of the fighters would be like, "Oh, how are you feeling?" And I was like, well, "We'll find out. We'll find out on the night. I don't really know yet." So just to be able
Yeah,
to go out there and to be able to do the things that that was worked on, that I worked on at GB Top Team, that I worked on with Dan separately, like that was amazing, and I felt accomplished.
I think it. I think there can't be too much emphasis on how much you've had to deal with in like the last 3 years, and I know I feel almost bad talking about it because it's all a lot of people. I mean, the press conference afterwards, everyone that whole like 3 years. I'm hoping now that with this win, it's drawn a line under it, and now you can kind of move on and deal with things, because obviously you had concussion issues, you had migraines, which obviously affects anyone's mental health. I don't care how kind of strong they are. And it's testament to you, obviously, that you continued training, never gave up, and then obviously having it doesn't hurt having such a great team around you over at Roughhouse with like Jimmy and Dan and a couple of other guys. I mean, I know how much it meant to you, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, just I know that after this fight, obviously the storyline was me 3 years out and how I was going to deal with all of that, but I think it's an important part in not only my career but in my life. You know, it was a time
Sure.
that I took to, because I didn't only sort of evolve in the way that I was fighting and the way that I was thinking and viewing things and how I was training, but also my personal life. You know, I went from moving from place to place and training at gyms and training with great people, with great coaches, but not being able to kind of put things together to finding a home base during all this time, going through an injury. But I feel like the injury kind of helped me. It was like a blessing in disguise, sort of say, because it forced me to slow down. I don't think any other injury would have gotten me to slow down because it was until I like just drove myself to the ground, it wasn't going to stop me. And I'm glad that it was something, not like glad that it was something so serious, but it's pretty sad that it took something so serious for me to stop. But just to have that and to be able to have the time to settle not only my life outside, like my life in MMA, but also my life personally, that was something really great. And that was something I felt during the fight. I felt that kind of like that homeness. I don't really know how to describe it, and maybe it's difficult to describe for people who have that all the time, but I didn't have like a solid team that I had gone and I had trained with, and
Sure.
felt all the support. There was teams that I've gone and I have returned to, and they're great and stuff, but not that home feeling. And to have that was really great.
Sure. I mean, did you want to give up? Were there stages where you literally thought, I'm not going to be able to get back into the cage at all? Did you have those moments during those 3 years?
Absolutely. I mean, I had those moments like during camp. I'd have like horrible trainings or horrible sparring, and I'm just like, what am I doing? There's no way I have a skill for any of this, and this is ridiculous. I'm way in over my head. I battled those thoughts constantly, but it's kind of like when studying for an exam. If you think you're going to fail, maybe just continue to study and or like return to the question. And that's kind of what I was trying to do. I was just trying to get through the days. And I think a big turning point that I had was when I stopped thinking about each training session like it was a result, like it was a telling of where I was as
Sure.
a fighter, as a person. It was like, I love doing this, and I'm here because I love it, and that is the only thing that matters. And I feel when I kind of changed that mindset, everything started to flow a bit better and things were starting to come together. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you had an incredible performance. You went in against a dangerous opponent. I mean, there's no two ways about it. She's a wizard on the ground. She comes from a strong team at 10th Planet, and she's got a lot of shine on her. She obviously came from the Ultimate Fighter, so you didn't make things easy for yourself in like the kind of first fight back. But what
I don't choose.
Yeah, well, no, I know, but I think you could have. Obviously, so a lot of people would have maybe gone, oh, maybe not my first fight back. Maybe I kind of want to pass that by. What is it about her that you kind of? Because obviously, I'm sure Dan broke her down 1,000 different ways. I can already imagine that. I'm sure he had like his pen out and putting circles around people and arrows here and there. But what is it that you saw that you could like kind of take advantage of and push the advantage over to yourself? Because you were the underdog at every step going into this fight, apart from the people that knew. Some of us knew. You had the inside scoop. But what did you feel? How did you feel about what that you could do to kind of nullify her strengths?
Well, I felt she was a very dangerous, very tricky opponent, especially for the way that I was fighting previously. You know, when you have 1-4 record in the UFC and they give you a name, they don't give you like a few names, they give you a name, and it's like, take it or we're like releasing you. Not that they said that, but you know, I knew that was the situation I was in. I knew that the first fight back wasn't going to be an easy one, that sure. I was probably going to be one of those like feeder fights for somebody else. So it was very important for me when I stepped back in there to feel that I was ready to fight somebody who was really good. Because a lot of the times you have people who aren't ranked that, in my opinion, would give ranked people a good run for their money. They just haven't had the opportunity to face those opponents. And sometimes, you know, like people in the rankings kind of like sit there for a little bit. Sure. So when it was quite like a quick thing, because I remember it was my birthday, and then Dan proposed to me that day. Then the following day I went to France for Aries. I was commentating. And so Mick Maynard sent me a message and asked me about, like, because he had been messaging me before, and I told him, look, I'm not ready. I need to be able to train for a little bit and know that I'm ready to go and not, you know, burst into migraines again and have to cancel another fight, because I just don't want to do that. It's I don't like it. I feel it's very irresponsible for me to do that, and if I'm going to be a professional athlete, I need to behave like one and not just be like, oh, okay, I'll fight anybody, let's go. So it was all kind of like a whirlwind, like kind of experience, because it was like, I'm getting married and I have a fight coming up. Oh my goodness, I haven't fought in 3 years. What is this? This is a hard opponent. I remember I had seen, because I had seen her fight against Brogan Walker. I don't remember what event it was, but I remember like seeing it and being like, whoa, that girl's good. She's taking her down, good control and stuff, and being like, this is a tough fight. And knowing how I was fighting before, how I would be a bit like reckless, how I would not make the right decisions sometimes. And I thought, if a new version of you doesn't come out, you will lose this fight. Undoubtedly. Like, this is a fight for you to lose. And like, you need to do the right thing. So just that was a little bit challenging, because it's just like, you have to be a way that you've never been before in order to win. And even though I knew that I had to train that, and I knew I had to be patient, and I knew that all these things, it was hard, because I've never done it. Sure. You know, especially in a very, very stressful scenario. So that was something that I saw, that I just had to be very disciplined throughout the fight, that she was going to attack constantly, and that there wasn't a point in the fight where I could just relax, because that's when an arm would get snapped off.
Well, I think it was really impressive during the actual fight of your composure when you were in those moments that she wanted you to bite. She wanted you to kind of pull your arm out or kind of try and really change that position. But it was really impressive to see that you just you chilled. It was impressive to see, because you could kind of see her brain was just like, oh, hang on, this is not how this is supposed to this is supposed to go. And then also, I think that was really telling was one thing that we'd all noticed was that she's incredible. Her jiu-jitsu is very, very high level. I mean, obviously being under Martinez brothers and the guys over at 10th Planet, but her being hit or her responding to being hit, it changes a lot with her, and I think it's something that obviously she's working on. But you really took advantage of, was like when you were in those positions, like, well, I'm going to hit you in the face, and then it changed everything. And I really think there was very much so a new version of Veronica Hardy in that cage, because you still have one of my favourite all-time leg kick knockouts. It's like, it's one of those ones you hear it and you just like your face kind of goes, oh, every time. But you're right when you say reckless, because you were a marauder. You would literally go in there all guns blazing.
Yeah.
And it was lovely to see you kind of really composed. It's like, is that something that kind of you and Dan had kind of gone over extensively, or is it something you just come to by yourself, or how did it come to that?
Well, I think it took a lot of watching other people fight, and a lot of seeing that people don't just go guns blazing at 100% at their opponent, and that was probably not a smart game plan.
Sure.
Which I like. I never really went in with a game plan. I just went in for a fight, and that's how I viewed MMA, as like, we are just fighting. And it wasn't until, because I look back at it now and I feel that's like a bit strange for me to think that, because I go, if you went from martial art gym to martial art gym and you learn like technical stuff, like, why is it that you just threw it all out the window and you just went for a fight when it got together? And that, I still view it now, and I don't understand. I do understand, because I didn't have anybody to help me put it together, if that makes sense. I didn't have Dan to help me put it together, and I didn't have a gym like GB Top Team where I could go try those things out and ask questions and add little things and view the whole thing as a MMA perspective, and not just, I do martial arts and then I get into a fight. And I think that, like, the clicking of all of it was very important, and that was what helped me feel calm, because I had a lot of people tell me, you just go in there and do what you do in the gym, right? And in my head, that was never the case. I was like,
I mean, it kind of makes sense when you say it like that, but when you're under that kind of stress, I think it's very, very different. I mean, moving on to, we'll talk about you coming over to GB Top Team, because obviously it was an absolute delight to have you guys with us. But how was it? Obviously, GB Top Team, we pride ourselves on having the biggest female squad, even though it's criminally, if you look at the sport in general, it's nowhere near as big as you might think, but we still have the biggest kind of team in the UK, and certainly almost in Europe as well. How did it feel kind of coming through the first time, kind of meeting the guys here and getting stuck in? Because that's exactly what happened. It was. Yeah.
Oh, well, it was great. Like, I had come down and I had seen the gym, obviously, before. Like, with PFL, the Dan had come in. I remember I was just on the sidelines, and at the point I couldn't really train yet. I was still having all those concussion issues. So I remember watching it and just being like, wow, I can't wait to be here. I remember specifically watching Claire do a lot of like takedowns and that integration, that she had a clear visual on what she wanted to accomplish during the sparring. And I remember that really stood out to me, because I was just like, look, they're not just recklessly throwing hands at each other. Like, there is structure to what everybody's game in, and I was seeing that with a bunch of different athletes, and all as well. They were, they weren't massive, which is an issue that you have sometimes going to a gym. Like, everybody's too big for me to train with, or it's not really like realistic. You don't really know what works or what doesn't, because you're just like, did that person let me? Did I really do it? And that puts a lot of doubt in your mind. So just to see that how everybody was very explosive, but explosive towards a correct direction, like with their takedowns and all of it as a whole. And that was something that I really liked. And especially how good with the wrestling and the grappling orientated it was, because the UK is not really known for that. You know, European fighters in general aren't really known for that. They're known for having great striking. Not that GBT doesn't, but it's just the fact that they have that as well to bolster on to their game was something that I was really excited to be able to come in and train in. And I remember the first time back, it was like Chanel that caught me with a head kick. And then I ate it. And I was like, I don't have a headache right now. This is pretty good.
Do you know what?
It was like the best, worst thing.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah.
I think I actually got that, because I think I was filming that day. I think I actually got that. And it was kind of, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that must have been a hurdle, because obviously you having the concussion, having the headaches. There must have been, you must have been in the back of your head, excuse the pun, be thinking, oh, you're one punch away, you're one kick away of going back to that hell. I mean, is that something that you really had to cope with as well? Yes.
Well, it's something that, you know, it's kind of like when somebody asks you, like, oh, are you nervous for a fight? It's like, well, you go in there not thinking that anything bad's going to happen to you, you know? But you get a bit delusional. But it was definitely something that was on the back of my mind, and it was something that I was a bit scared of, because up to the point where I went to GB Top Team, I didn't really have anybody my size to spar with. I sparred a lot with, like, Jake Wills, which he's very good, very skilled, but he's 14 and he hasn't developed power that he has, because you know you're 14. So that was something that I was a bit like nervous about, having an actual sparring, especially like 3 years out.
Of course,
felt my timing was going to be all over the place, and the distance was going to be all over the place, and it wasn't like I was kind of going in already doing good things. It's like I was testing if that was going to be okay, just drill wise, something that I had worked on. So when I went in there and I had those hard sparrings, and after, although I felt like it was horrible after, it was something that made me really excited, because I'm like, yeah, dude, but let's take into consideration the fact that you feel fine right now. You feel great, and
for the record, Chanel kicks like a mule. So
absolutely.
So the fact that you ate that kick and was like, it was kind of like almost the best barometer. Well, if she can do it and I'm fine, then we're all good.
No, I mean, I thought that, but before I went out and fought, and I'm just like, look, it's over. The concussion things are done. You ate a head kick like that, and that means like nothing this girl can throw at you will be as hard as that, because I know where Chanel's like level is, you know. I have been to enough places where I can see somebody and see, okay, their level is really high, and to have that going in there was a massive help.
I'm glad we could help in that way, in a strange way. I'm really glad that you get kicked in the head and then be like, okay, it's fine. It's
important. It's important.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it's. I mean, I suppose the benefit that we have with the female athletes here is that we have wrestlers like Claire Lopez, and we have strikers like Chanel, and then we have jiu-jitsu players like Kate. So we really kind of cover, and I suppose that's what's rare in female MMA, is having specialists in all those areas under one roof. I suppose that's the most difficult thing. I mean, obviously, how long have you been in the UK now for?
Well, I've been here for 3 years.
Sure.
Yeah, 3 years, but like the first year I didn't train at all, really.
Sure.
I tried to train at the home gym sometimes, and because in my head I was like, maybe I'll get a last notice fight, you know. And Dan was like, what are you doing? Like, dude. So yeah, no, but like for sure what you're saying, like you have no idea how much like Kate helped me. Like I was in the fight, and I remember just being there and her going to awkward things and being really flexible and feeling calm because I had, you know, rolled with Kate, and she does just crazy things, very flexible things that normally like a man isn't isn't known to do, you know,
Yep.
have that flexibility and that difference in style that women have, and to just feel calm because, well, I knew Kate was a lot stronger, a lot stronger than my opponent, and that she had helped me foresee a lot of things that would be kind of strange and my opponent would probably do. So that was really important for me. Just all of them, man. They helped me all so much. I remember Claire like showing me some takedowns during a wrestling class, and her going over different variations so I wouldn't get caught in a guillotine, something that I hadn't thought about. And I was just like, oh wow, yeah. And Brad helping me out with little tricks against the cage, which is not something that I had worked on too much before. And Ash, of course, being such a good help on the grappling. I actually remember because my opponent was going for a guillotine, and I had rolled with Ash a few weeks before, and he not guillotine, sorry, Kimura, and he swept me with it. And then he was like, you only get caught with that if you're stupid. So I was in the fight, and I just played Ash going, if you get caught with this, you're stupid.
Ash has a habit. It's his mantra. It's kind of like he teaches in a way that I think is very unique in the fact of like he'll berate you, be like, look, I've taught you the way now. If you get caught in this, you're an idiot. And it's kind of like that's really sticks with you. You're like, I really don't want Ash to be proven right. So it kind of it motivates you. But it's really nice to hear that obviously we had an impact in the actual fight itself. It's amazing. It's amazing to kind of know that. So what's next? What do you foresee? Are you eyeing up July now, going like, hey, I'm available, or how are you kind of looking at things?
Yeah, I mean, like July sounds great. I don't know if I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, because there was a lot of things in that fight that I want to like fix and I knew, but you know, after a fight you just like take on the world. And it's just
I'll fight anyone.
Yeah, I mean, like that experience is just so unique. The amount of just nerves that you get and the adrenaline, and after you kind of just like play with your thumbs, like because there's just not a lot of things like it. It's just so
It's
intense.
the O2 as well. You mean you got to think your adopted home. I hate saying that. It's your home. You are British by default. You have there's little snippets of the accent. It was really funny during the press conference. There were certain things you were saying that made me chuckle because you had a very kind of British way of kind of saying it. I'm sure you must get like shit from it from home and stuff when it's like it comes out. But to think your home in front of literally the creme de la creme of arenas in the UK, that it doesn't get much better than the O2 in front of a home crowd. Having been out for 3 years, I mean, was there a point afterwards you just sat there and was like, oh my God, what the hell just happened? What the hell did I just do?
Yeah, and like a week after, I'm really bad with like processing personal emotions, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it's especially when it comes to joy. Like I'm a lot better if I see somebody else be real happy, and then I can get really, really happy. But like for myself, I'm almost, I'm not very good at it.
Sure.
It kind of just, I just don't really digest it, but it is something. It's awesome, and it's so cool that I got the ability to do something awesome. This is kind of what I was thinking before the fight, and I'm like, dude, it's the O2 Arena. You know how many great people have performed there, and just the fact that you get to do it in a place that means so much to you. And what was cool is that applying for British citizenship is a bit expensive.
Yes.
The most expensive country in the world to apply for citizenship. So I was just like, I'm like a gladiator. I'm going to fight here and pay for my citizenship.
Well,
I'm such a dork. I'm sorry.
I know that. I love that. That's if that isn't full circle, I don't know what is. It's kind of
Right?
like
It's cool.
an ending to a movie almost. It's like, I did it and I can stay here now. It's all good.
Yeah. I can pay the fee.
So
Yeah.
if you could, just in closing, if we could kind of, if you could advise us, so someone's like, wanting to fight and kind of what GB Top Team kind of brought to yourself in the times that you came down there? How would you kind of say that, I suppose, is the best way of putting it? That's a terrible way of asking a question, but it is what it is.
I mean, GB Top Team for me now is a place that I will return constantly during camps. It's a place that has helped me tremendously, and it helped me take leaps with training. It was something that it was amazing. You know, like the coaches are all there. They're all so helpful. The athletes are very helpful. You know, the level's high, and you can test things, but you can also be pushed, and that's what's important. And at the end of the training, no matter how hard the athletes or the coaches pushed you, they're there for you as a team, which is the most important part, where you can grow, and they will help facilitate that. And for me, I don't think that there's a better place out there. So I'm very grateful to have that, and to have a place that has, you know, welcomed me in and helped me so much. I feel like the biggest leaps that I took, and where it all started to come together, was when I started to go down to GB Top Team, where I could really put it to play and make those adjustments that sometimes that you wouldn't really see that you needed to make. So they were good reality checks, and that helped me fight, that helped me compete. And I'm just looking forward to what I will be able to do next with GB Top Team, you know, like as a gym that I can go down to, with all the phenomenal athletes that they have there and coaches, and I couldn't be happier.
Well, we appreciate that, and I think I speak for everybody, where it's like, unfortunately, you're stuck with us now. There's no escape, because it literally was. It was a pleasure to have you down there, and you helped everyone in the gym. You came down to get help yourself, but honestly, you really helped raise the bar for everyone. And yeah, we can't wait to kind of see what happens to you next. But Veronica, it was a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for taking time to speak to us.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me.